you canceled a church event, a beloved church event, in order to take part in, well, remind me, it was a social justice related event, but that was a powerful story. Tell us that story. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a very crazy and wild thing to do as a
Mm.
first-time senior pastor at this, legacy church. And it was about 4 months in. So it was August of 2016, right when, again, like there were so many critical conversations about
Mm.
Black men being gunned down by police officers and
Mhm.
police violence, and it happened in our own community in Pasadena. And our community was one of those that was mourning while the entire nation was mourning. And this was at the same time that there were the protests happening in Dallas, and there were shootings, and it was a very chaotic time. And we every year had a very popular choir concert called the Favorites Concert, where the choir and the band and orchestra got together for this big concert and ice cream social afterwards, and they played all of their favorite pieces from the year.
Mm.
And it's a highly advertised event. The church loves it. It's a gathering place for them. Well, the Friday night before the event, so the event was on a Sunday night. The Friday night before the event, Kerwin Manning, who is a pastor of a historic Black church in Pasadena, called me and he said, "Pastor, we need you. We are calling all the churches to come to City Hall and to pray at the steps of City Hall, to pray for healing and to pray for our city, because the people of color in our city are hurting, and we want our white
Mm.
brothers and sisters to stand with us in solidarity, to lament, to confess, and to pray with us." And I said, "Kerwin, Pastor, we are in. We'll be there. When is it?" He said, "It's Sunday night at 6 o'clock." I said, "Okay." And I took a big gulp. And I said, "Kerwin will be there." And I hung up the phone. I
Mm.
thought, "Crud, that is the same time as a Favorites concert." And I just told him we'll be there. And I knew that, but I also knew that it was so important, and it was more important than our Favorites concert. And so I started calling the board one by one. And I said, "We have to cancel the Favorites concert." And started making phone calls and called our choir director. Word got out, and I stood before the church on Sunday morning, terrified, shaking in my boots, knowing that I had canceled a very beloved event, kind of one of those
Mhm.
sacred cows, right, in a church
Yeah, right.
that pastors don't touch. And I did. And I stood before the church and I said, like, I know this is a beloved event and our community is hurting, and this is a moment for us to show up.
Mm.
And of course, I got complaints. I got some really nasty emails, some really nasty letters. It's a nasty email when it's written in all caps, right?
Oh, yeah.
All caps. You're in trouble because they're yelling at you the whole time.
Uh-huh.
And but at the same time, it was one of my proudest moments of the church.
Mm.
I remember standing on the steps of City Hall and looking out and seeing hundreds of our
Mm.
people from our
Wow.
church. Thousands of people showed up that night, and I could see hundreds of our people, and I was never more proud of our church.
That's awesome.